Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Encounters USA. I'm your host, Matthew Hines, and today we're going to be talking about some of the exciting development in the world of aliens and UFOs. But before we get too far into the podcast, let me just reassure you that I am still continuing to post on this channel. Unfortunately, because of my workload in that I am trying to finish another documentary. I've already had one documentary that has gone out in the last month, and that is, of course, Eceti Ranch Stargate, the UFO Bigfoot connection. So I went down to Eceti Ranch by Mount Adams last year, and I did a nice interview with James and did a great documentary about his wonderful Eceti Ranch. Then also I want to update you on the progress of the Cascade Bigfoot Blood Mystery documentary series. Now that movie was released almost about 6 months ago, and now it is starting to upload. It's on Amazon, it is on iTunes, or I'm sorry, Apple TV, and it is on Tubi, and of course Fandango and Britflix on YouTube, and all of your favorite streaming services. So the Cascade Bigfoot Blood Mystery is out there, and if you want my advice, I would watch Cascade Blood Mystery first, and then I would watch Eceti Ranch Stargate, the UFO Bigfoot connections, because they kind of tie into each other really well if you watch them in that order. All right, so the last video I did, I talked about on the Giza Plateau, some scientists use a form of LiDAR radar in satellite images, and they found that underneath the pyramids of Giza, there appear to be these 1.5 mile long columns that are supporting the actual pyramids. So I did a really exciting video about that. I brought in the remote viewers from the Farsight Institute. I showed you how the remote viewers from the Farsight described the construction of the pyramids and how that really ties in to this recent information. So I did that, and as far as any further developments or knowledge or information about that particular subject, it's just basically been that's right. Ever since that announcement was made, there's been really nothing posted on it. So I would actually have to say that that more or less confirms my theories that the aliens did build these pyramids. There's technology in there that we don't understand, and just like with the recent UFO sightings, or what they call drones, that started in November of 2024, there is nothing from the government about it. There is nothing about any form of disclosure, and towards the end of this video we're going to talk about that. But I just want to get you updated on the stuff that I actually have been doing. And then the fact of the matter is that because I'm doing another documentary now, it's very difficult to keep posting these videos, but I'm doing the best I can to keep this channel alive and to keep you updated. So if you want to keep updated on all the UFO, Bigfoot, alien, dogman information, and there is a lot, then you need to hit that subscribe button. Also, ring that bell so you will get notifications whenever I post a new video. Also, don't forget, go to encountersusa.com and check out the merchandise I have there. You can get one of these really cool aliens, Bigfoot and Dogman signature line tank tops or t-shirts or anything that suits your fancy at encountersusa.com, and just go to the merchandise and also check out our blogs and of course our hundreds of videos on Bigfoot, Dogman, and aliens. And if you're a podcast person, go ahead and check us out on your favorite podcasting station. All right then, so that leaves us with the topics of today. And today our topics are going to be Jake Barber and his egg UFO. We're going to talk a little bit about that and the recent developments and postings and announcements that he's made and what his company is up to and whether or not that is a good idea. And then we're going to talk about this Buga Sphere that was found in Colombia. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Let's get started.
So the dog whistle is what they're calling this, and it refers to their proprietary system that emits specific electronic signals intended to attract the UAPs.
Right.
Now, Skywatcher reports a 100% success rate in eliciting UAP responses during field tests using the system. Now, the exact frequency and configurations used are undisclosed due to, security concerns.
Right.
And multiple sensors, including electro-optical cameras, radio detectors, are employed to capture data during the events. Now, controlled tests with random signals reportedly failed to attract any UAPs, suggesting specificity with, they have to use the exact signal that the dog whistle uses to attract it. So, and I've seen some things where they were saying they even have ones that don't even show up unless you're using infrared.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get into that later. We've got all the breakdown of I believe it's 9 different UFOs that they have claimed to call in on a regular basis.
They have a whole classification system that they've developed, so they can say, like, this is the manta ray, this is jellyfish, this is, so they can classify the craft that they're interacting with.
Is Jake Barber, if you don't know who he is, I did a video about him about a month ago, and Jake Barber has come on News Nation and talked about the fact that he has actually picked up with a helicopter these egg-shaped UFOs and deposited them for a company that is using the technology for research. And he didn't say a lot more than that, but now he's come out and said that he has his own company now and that they are going to use a method which he talked about a little bit earlier called psionics. Now, don't get that mixed up with my psionics, my infrared that I use to go out and look for Bigfoot and aliens and Dogman in the woods. No, this is a different kind of psionics. This is a psychic ability, which is kind of like remote viewing, that they are using to bring in these alien craft.
Of interest and of import to both the public and the government are what most people know now as the egg and the Aegon. And those were probably the two most interesting and compelling experiences that lead us to that other category where it doesn't seem man-made. It's not U.S. military, and it's not adversarial that we can detect. And it's just weird, man. It's just anomalous. So
I don't want to go too far into it, but I just want to point out, because nobody seems to be doing it, that the idea of using psychic abilities or any abilities whatsoever to bring down a alien spacecraft might not be the best idea. And why is that? Well, number one,
we're extremely confident that our dog whistle is responsible for calling in the UAPs. So in 2024 was our last event that we did for the government.
These craft do not belong, according to us, these craft do not belong to us. They do not belong to Jake Barber. They do not belong to the United States, supposedly. And if they don't, then the people or the beings that they belong to might not be really happy that we are capturing these things. And they might not be really happy that we're capturing them for research in order to build our own sort of egg-shaped UFOs. But the fact of the matter is, this is what Jake Barber claims that his company is doing, and I am just putting out there that I don't think that this is the best idea, because we don't know if there is retaliation or if there is retribution for grabbing one of these crafts that don't belong to us. One of the real issues is, are they going to hold Mr. Barber responsible for this? Or are they going to hold the whole planet responsible for what he's doing in taking his craft? So that's a very big issue, and I hope people will talk about it. I hope it will get discussed, and I hope people with some rationality or reason will develop some kind of protocol so that this does not become a intergalactic incident where the Earthlings lose big time. These craft are still showing up all over the world. They're getting more bizarre. They're doing more bizarre things. And yet the government has not said anything about whether there's going to be any more disclosure. Now, the government and various entities keep saying that there is going to be disclosure, that it's coming and it's coming soon. And every time you hear something from Ross Coulthart, he's always talking about a disclosure that never really seems to happen. So what's the deal with that? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the episode. But right now, I want to talk to you about the most amazing, there's been a lot of amazing developments, but right now, the idea that we don't have any evidence of an extraterrestrial civilization has been blown out of the water. Now, I just want to point out that there have been mummies found in Mexico, all kinds of artifacts released by Mexico that depict aliens. And I'm just going to say that. So the fact that they're still coming out and saying there's no evidence when there is tons of evidence, is just par for the course and an indication that nothing is going to change as far as disclosure. And to even further demonstrate this, let's talk about this Buga Sphere. All right. So if you don't know it, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, this sphere landed in Colombia. And it had been flying around this neighborhood, and some people think that it struck a wire and that it landed. And after it landed, it was picked up and it was turned over to a technology company called the German company. And they went through and they did some electronic testing, some electronic scanning of the sphere initially, and what they found out was that it has it's basically a sophisticated form of aluminum with about 5% iron, zinc, other metals, but it's mostly a sophisticated form of aluminum. It's got a number of intricate designs on it. It's got characters that denote some kind of language. And most interesting of all, well, not of all, but there are two things that are very interesting about it. And the first thing I want to talk about is this design on it that almost exactly correlates with the design that showed up in a crop circle glyph in England.
Tension, rekindle decades-old alien contact theories, and unearth eerie connections to symbols found in English crop circles. Most notably, a formation that appeared just after Carl Sagan's Arecibo message was beamed into deep space. Coincidence? Or was this silent sphere the long-awaited answer? Now, let's take a look at what is being described as the intricate transmission and reception system located on the sphere's upper portion. As known, 16 points appear represented on what seems to be a diagram or chip. 2 points specifically seem dedicated to orienting the sphere, noticeably longer than the other 14 points, forming 7 points on each side. This detail holds significant importance as a message that arrived on Earth in August 2001 in English crop fields, a binary-coded reply to Frank Drake and Carl Sagan's original message, depicted a large antenna featuring precisely the same points observed on the sphere. Could this be a mere coincidence or a vital clue offering valuable insight into improved extraterrestrial communication methods? The research suggests it is the method these beings utilize for message transmission and reception. Proceeding now to the analysis. On November 16, 1974, a binary-coded message designed by scientists Frank Drake and Carl Sagan was broadcast from the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico. The intention was for technologically advanced extraterrestrial intelligences to receive and decode it. Specifically directed toward the Hercules constellation, near the Milky Way's edge and approximately 25,000 light-years away, the message described Earth's solar location, foundational mathematics and science, human DNA, physical dimensions, population, and depicted the Arecibo telescope itself. Unexpectedly, 27 years later, on August 21, 2001, a response appeared. In Hampshire, near the heavily guarded Chilbolton radio telescope, two impressive formations emerged in a wheat field, one depicting a humanoid face, the other containing the reply to Drake and Sagan's message, similarly arranged in binary code. The responding extraterrestrial intelligence provided specific information regarding their identity, origin, and biology. Their decimal system closely resembled humanity's, and the essential life-forming atoms, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and carbon, were mutual to both species, although intriguingly, they also included silicon-14. Their DNA, unlike human double helix DNA, was triple-stranded, and their larger genome suggested an advanced evolutionary stage. Physically distinct, they measured around 1.25 meters with disproportionately large head.
And the crop circle glyph appeared to be a response to a transmission from the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico. Pointed out we're human beings. It told about our genetics. It told about our planet. It told about our chemical composition, and it told whoever received the message how we sent it by putting a depiction of the actual Arecibo telescope on the glyph, on the pictograph. In return, a few years later, about 23 years later, actually, we got a response. And it was very interesting. There were a lot of different things about it, but for our podcast, we need to understand that they answered. We sent a message that said, "This is who we are." Somebody sent a message back and said, "This is who we are." And so that was it's like we got your message, and this is us. So, and it also gave us some warnings, but I'm not going to get too far into that. But what I do want to point out is that the system, remember I said we sent our message with the Arecibo laboratory? Well, they sent a pictograph of what they send, and that pictograph is exactly depicted on the Buga Sphere. It's like, we got your message. This is how we communicate. This is how we communicate with all these devices. This is how we communicate with each other. Just like how we say we communicate with our Arecibo telescope. So that is an amazing development. And once again, what are we hearing from science or from anybody really? We're hearing nothing. We're hearing absolute. Now, I don't know if you recall the book The Day After Roswell by Major Philip Corso, but Philip Corso wrote a book in which he describes the alien technology that we got from the Roswell crash. Now, some of that technology included Velcro, and it included other things, but the most important it included was fiber optic cables. They said fiber optic cables were strung throughout the craft. They didn't know what they were or what they did, but eventually they were able to find out and actually replicate the fiber optic cables, which is the basis of our own communication system today. Well, guess what? the fiber optic cables are also in the Buga Sphere.
Yo veo aquí un poquito diferente la fibra.
Como si estuviera en otro ángulo.
Sí, en otro ángulo, exactamente.
O sea, esta es la ranura.
Sí.
Aquí hay fibra óptica.
Sí,
Quiere decir que en toda la esfera hay fibra óptica.
Sí, esta es la ranura y este es el interior de la ranura. Y aquí en el interior hay fibra óptica y está repleto de fibras ópticas.
Este es el polo norte de la esfera, este es el polo sur y es la ranura que
en Ecuador.
Se ve la unión en el Ecuador.
En Ecuador.
Pero lo importante aquí es que quiere decir que en toda la esfera hay fibra óptica. Por donde le abramos va a haber fibra óptica.
Ahí está la prueba.
So the same people who maybe made this Roswell craft also made this Buga Sphere, because throughout this Buga Sphere, on the almost molecular level, there are thousands of micro-sized, infinitesimally small fiber optic cables. Now, these fiber optic cables are testing things, they are sensors, they're doing communications, they're doing a lot of things, and a lot of things we don't even know what the fiber optic cables are for. But the fact of the matter is, and once again, you're only hearing this on Encounters USA, nobody is saying that there were a lot of fiber optic cables found on the Roswell craft, and nobody's saying that this pretty much matches the Roswell craft's technology, and that this ties in this alien technology with its its fiber optic cables. It ties this into the Roswell crash. But unfortunately, nobody is really coming out and saying that, except here at Encounters USA. Last thing that I want to talk about to you is this idea of disclosure. Now, supposedly they have been saying that there is going to be disclosure here or there or everywhere. But the fact of the matter is that the further we go along, we're finding out, and I'm just going to use one example to illustrate my point. The biggest fraudster, hoaxer guy in the world of UFO cover-ups and disinformation is a guy named Doty, right? And this Doty guy has made a career of going around and debunking or putting out false information or partial information to discredit UFO researchers and UFO sightings, etc., etc. Well, now this Richard Doty fellow has come out and said what? He has said that he was asked to come and be part of Luis Elizondo's UAP program at the Pentagon. Why would you bring in a disinformation specialist to work in a program on UAPs when the Pentagon is supposedly trying to disclose this information? Well, it really looks to me like Elizondo and this Richard Doty, well, are they really putting out real information, or are they putting out some kind of disinformation? Now, why would they want to do this? Well, I'm going to make it very crystal clear and very simple to you. The United States government and the people working with UFOs, from the corporations to the Defense Department, etc., they want to control the UFO narrative. Now, what do I mean by that? When information comes out, they don't want that just to be random information that people can put, like I do. I put things together and say, wait a minute, this ties in to that, like the Buga Sphere ties into the Philip Corso book and the Roswell crash. They don't want people doing that. They want people to follow their narrative of what this is and what that is, and usually it's swamp gas, the planet Venus, etc., etc. The government wants to control that narrative. So, in order to control the narrative, they have put out this disinformation, and I'm going to use the 2004 Navy footage and the 2015 Navy Florida footage, where these guys are supposedly Air Force pilots, but they're talking like surfers or some kind of weird people that people. I know I'm a ex paratrooper. You are not allowed to speak on a military communication in the sort of language that these people are using. And so I believe, and let's just take a look at this and see what I'm talking about.
Moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow.
Now, I believe that what they did is, in order to this information came out. This was leaked, this footage was leaked, and the Navy said, we have to control this. We have to control the narrative here. So what they did is they dubbed over some surfer dudes or whatever talking about this UFO they're watching, but they are not acting like it is what it is. And what it is a very real threat. It is thousands of years in advance of the technology these people are flying, and this craft could take down their craft in a moment. Just with the technology it's demonstrating right here, with its ability to fly so fast and to go up into outer space, enter the water, etc., etc. These craft could do some very real damage to these pilots, and the pilots seem like it's a circus, it's a joke. And that's what they want to push off on people. Oh, hoo, hoo, ha ha, hee hee. This is fun. This is great. This is exciting. Oh, wow, dude, But what the factual matter is, this is a very dangerous situation for all these pilots and for the Navy itself. But they want to put out this information that there is, and this goes all the way back to the 1965 Condon Report, there is no credible information, there is no apparent threat, and we have nothing to worry about. So if they exist, if they don't exist, it doesn't matter, because they're not going to harm us. And this has been the military take on things ever since the UFO issue started. So it hasn't changed any. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing disinformation people brought in, like Richard Doty brought into the UAP flap, controversy. And what we're seeing is that the Pentagon is basically slowly but surely shutting down everything. So is Jacob Barber, is he part of the disinformation? Is Ross Coulthart part of the disinformation? We don't know. But all we know is that as we see more and more UFOs, as we see more and more strange craft doing strange things, and the government comes out and says they are drones, then we know that we're not going to have any kind of disclosure whatsoever. And we can pretty much guarantee that the aliens themselves will want nothing to do with us until the day they show up to either eat us, like in the Twilight Zone movie, or to just take over the planet and take our resources from us and make us less of a threat to the rest of the cosmos. So that's your report for the day. That is your podcast if you're listening on the podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Matthew Hines, and I'm a producer, director, author. And if you want to look at any of the stuff I do, just go to EncountersUSA.com and keep yourself aware of what's going on, make sure you subscribe and like the channel so that you will be able to inform yourself when I drop new videos. And I just want to point out before I go that there's been a lot of stuff about Dogman and Bigfoot in the past few weeks as well that I haven't had a chance to cover, but that I will cover sometime next week. I've seen a lot of amazing footage, so hit that like and subscribe button and make sure to ring the bell. And don't forget, go to your favorite streaming service and check out the Eceti Ranch Stargate UFO Bigfoot Connection, and check out the Cascade Bigfoot Blood Mystery documentary series, because you are going to learn more from those videos and those documentaries than you're going to learn from any documentary that is out there about Bigfoot, aliens, and Dogman. Because we get to the truth, we get to the science, we get down to the nitty-gritty. And so, speaking of the nitty-gritty, don't forget the basic rule of Encounters USA. And that is, when you're out looking for aliens, Bigfoot, or Dogman, always watch your back.